Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I am your host, Noor Kyle.
And I am her loyal sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
Yes, and we do have just the usual, our YouTube spiel. Thank you for being here. Welcome to those of you who are here live, and those of you who are watching on the replay. Welcome. We're very happy to have you here.
And you must suffer through me reminding you that it really, really helps us if you like this video because it gets us up in the algorithm. It helps us a lot if you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Why would you not? Because, I mean, we're just that cool. And it really, really helps us if you make a comment down below because we like, if we are the YouTube algorithm, we like the interaction. So we appreciate all of these things. And I want to remind you that you can, if you are interested or insane, um, have a one-on-one session with either of us or a two-on-one session with both of us, where we can help you sort out your spiritual life or some approximation thereof.
Yes.
There we
Yep.
go.
And if you just want to support our work, we do have donation links, and you can get involved in our YouTube, Facebook group, rather. Instagram has some stuff going on. All of that, very cool. You'll find the links in the description, as you all know, I'm sure. But we would love to hang out with you, so feel free to reach out and touch base with us and see how maybe we could work together, as Mushtaq said, to support you in your spiritual life. All right. So, without further ado, let's get to our topic this
All right.
evening.
What is our topic this evening?
This evening, we are going to talk again about the fourth way and how the fourth
Ta-dum-dum.
way integrates with our work as Sufis. We find a lot of useful stuff in there, and we will share all about that this evening.
Yeah, I think the title for this evening is The Fourth Way in the 21st Century,
Yes.
which is not the same as the fourth way in the 20th century or the as same as the fourth way in the 19th century. A
Yes.
totally different fourth way, but exactly the same.
And this is an important point for us because we do feel that there are ways in which the fourth way tends to get stuck. The way that it is done, the way that it is related to, tends to get stuck in the 19th and 20th centuries. And
Especially the
we
19th centuries.
gotta move on, guys. Gotta move on.
Yeah, but we got to pick on everybody a little bit, in ourselves.
Yes.
So we're going to look at three related aspects to this. We got Gurdjieff and his fourth way, which is uh, really important because it is the path of inner transformation in the midst of everyday life.
Mm,
Then we also have the Sufi ideal of Khalwa dar Anjuman, which means basically solitude in the crowd, to be inwardly in the work and outwardly living a full and complete life. And lastly, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, there is no monkery in Islam. And this is the reconciling part of this triad, that uh, the entirety of the philosophical stance uh, of Islam is that you live your life. You do not go into retreat from life. You do not move into a monastery. You do not shave your head and get a begging bowl. You hold down a job. You have a family. You do all of the things that you do, and you have your spiritual life.
mhm.
Ian has a question already.
Yes, Ian. Oh, not hearing you, unfortunately.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, just got a big mixed up. There you go.
It's just a comment, really. Um, One of the things that really surprised me when I was reading the spiel for tonight's talk that I'd never th even thought of before is that Islam doesn't have monasteries.
No, does not have a
Um,
priesthood, does not have monks.
well, you have
They're lawyers.
imams.
They're lawyers. They are not priests.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, it surprised me, and I thought that that was a very interesting thing to make note of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important. And people don't understand that, first of all, anybody can be an imam. You get 20 people together and it comes prayer time. You look around, stare at each other, and figure out who probably knows the most. And they're the imam for that moment. They lead the prayer. What we think of as imams are literally lawyers. They are interpreters of the law. They have no spiritual authority any more than any other person, whether they like to believe that or not.
So you mean the people we think of as like the priesthood, the learned ones, as
The
it were.
learned ones, yes.
Those are the lawyer types. And
Yeah.
yeah, you can have the people who do the preaching can be educated, but they need not be.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, but that's how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to have a priestly caste. So we get lawyers instead. It's like, what do you want? Rats or cockroaches?
So
Anyway,
where were we?
where
Yes.
were we, my dear?
Though that was an important observation.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that a lot of people in the West don't get because we think that religion needs to have priests to act as intermediaries between us and God.
Mm,
And the prophet found that anathema.
yeah.
He did not believe that there should be any intermediary between the believer and the divine.
Well, part of what that says is that people are supposed to be participants in their own spiritual education. You're supposed to pursue knowledge. That's one of the sayings that is attributed to the prophet. You know, pursue knowledge even unto China.
Yep.
And one of the other things that I liked about Islam a long time ago is no images, which
Yeah.
is so unlike Christianity or Buddhist statues or Hindu statues or all that iconography stuff.
Yeah. Muslims have their images held internally rather than externally.
For the most part. I mean, there
Yeah.
is this sense of some traditions do have a bit of iconography, but there's this sense of deep respect for the especially the faces of certain persons. So we'll see in artwork most of the time things are very abstractly represented rather than explicitly represented.
And that gives us some of the world's most beautiful calligraphy. Because
Mhm.
if you're not allowed to draw pictures of your friends, then you learn to write really pretty things about them.
Yep. Okay.
So let's talk about the fourth way per se, as Gurdjieff imagined it. He talked about there being traditionally three ways: the way of the fakir, who disciplines the body; the way of the monk, who disciplines the emotions; and the way of the yogi, who develops the mind. And he postulated that each of these three ways was done separately And in order to do them correctly, you had to withdraw from life. He said that there was a fourth way, which is to work simultaneously on all three of these ways with the aim to harmonize the centers, the body, the emotions, the mind, the moving center, the feeling center, and the thinking center, while remaining immersed in ordinary life. This is something I'm pretty sure he got from the dervishes who he hung out with in Turkey and Central Asia. But that's just my opinion. Uh, the path of the fourth way uses life itself as the field for transformation. The shocks of daily events, relationships, responsibility become the opportunities for conscious work. So I have a quote here from Gurdjieff in my notes. It says, "The fourth way begins right in life. It continues in life, and it is in life that the results are to be achieved." And that came out of In Search of the Miraculous, I believe. Now, the Sufis, I like saying that, the Sufis.
The Sufi.
Yeah. They have some Sufis in certain tariqas, though not all Sufis everywhere, um, hold to the principle of Khalwa dar Anjuman. Khalwa means retreat or withdrawal. And when you put this phrase together, it means retreat in the crowd, to be, uh, you can remain inwardly in your practice and outwardly in society, which sounds a lot like the fourth way. And it's not about hiding from the world, but it's about creating an inner sanctuary of presence where the heart stays tuned to the divine in all circumstances. And for this, I got a quote from one, I don't know which Chishti sheikh it was, who said, "Be with the people in your body, but with God in your heart," which sounds reasonable. And as you can see, this really resonates with the idea of the fourth way. Both teach us to be awake, responsive, and present, not by stepping out of life, but by stepping into it more consciously.
Yeah, I mean, there is this pattern. I mean, I think most of us, I've said this previously in the past, many of us who have been on a spiritual path, part of the appeal was the fact that, oh, I'm gonna opt out of the main activities of life somehow, and I'm gonna set myself apart as a special. But ultimately that becomes a trap. And if we're really seriously committed to a life of spiritual depth, uh, it's our argument that that really happens in the midst of everyday affairs,
Yeah.
dealing with the challenges of relating with others who are close to us or who are not close to us, relating to people at work, dealing with the frustrations of uh, making sure we have enough sustenance to live, our occupation, our pastimes, our personal hygiene habits, like all of these things can be grist for the mill if we are able to put them within that framing.
And
Yes, Ian.
as a question,
More another comment. It Back when I was first finding out about Buddhism, one of the things that always puzzled me a lot was the difference between a Buddha and a Bodhisattva. And from what I remember, Bodhisattva Buddhas were people who chose nirvana, enlightenment, and Bodhisattvas were people who chose to work in the world, which sounds very much like what you're
Yeah.
describing.
Yeah. The basics, as I understand it, though I'm not a Buddhist, so I can only comment as an uh, outsider, is that the Buddhas selfishly go into the void and merge back into the oneness of being, whereas the Bodhisattvas um, take a vow to remain in the world until all human beings are awakened. And that selfishly thing that was actually said to me by a Zen monk. So I feel okay using it. That was his opinion. Uh, but yeah, the Bodhisattva vow is to work towards the enlightenment of all mankind. So you stick around. And that is a good thing, in my opinion. It's very close to the Sufi point of view. What fun is it to be awake if everybody else is asleep,
Mm.
as Mullah Nasruddin would say?
Yeah, like the imagery coming to my mind is like rushing to the escape pod and, you know, taking off with it.
So, silly Buddha. So, the last
So,
third of this is the concept of no monkery in Islam.
mhm.
So, the Prophet, when he said this, didn't reject spirituality, he redefined it. He defined spirituality as something that was personal, something that you needed to take responsibility for yourself. There are various ideas of on the last day when whatever angel is in charge of these things asks you, why did you do these things? And you say, I did my life this way because this great Osama over here said that I should live like this. And the angel then replies something to the effect of, you idiot. Why did you not take responsibility for your own life? Again, I'm doing serious paraphrasing here, but that is the feeling that I get from this idea that nobody can live your life for you. Nobody can answer for your life for you.
No one
You,
can fix what needs fixing for you.
yeah. And if
Whatever
you
that
think that
means.
that's going to happen, uh, back in the day in psychology, we called that looking for Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Santa Claus is going to come and give you the present of a good life. And it just doesn't work that way. Osama, did you have a thought? I noticed you moving around there.
I am looking for the ayah in which it talks about monks um, within the Quran. I found it. Um,
Yeah, cool. Because I
yeah,
could,
it's yeah. So it's 50 chapter 57 ayah verse 27. So 57:27, and it says, I'll just read the translation.
no, do the Arabic first. People need to hear the Arabic.
Okay, let's see. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ثم قفينا على آثارهم برسلنا وقفينا بعيسى ابن مريم وآتيناه الإنجيل وجعلنا في قلوب الذين اتبعوه رأفة ورحمة ورهبانية اتبعوها ما كتبناها عليهم إلا ابتغاء رضوان الله فما رعوها حق رعايتها فآتينا الذين آمنوا منهم أجرهم وكثير منهم فاسقون. It says, then in the footsteps of these prophets, we sent our messengers, and after them we sent Jesus, son of Mary, and granted him the gospel, and instilled compassion and mercy into the hearts of his followers. As for as for mona, monasticism,
Monasticism.
monasticism,
Mhm.
they've ordained it to themselves. We never ordained it for them, only seeking to please Allah. Yet they did not even observe it strictly. So we rewarded those of them who were faithful, but most of them were rebellious. So it's talking about monasticism as something that was not ordained by the divine for as a path, um, which is an interesting
Yeah. And
point of view.
it makes sense. I mean, from what little we can know of the divine reality, I'm pretty sure it doesn't want you to sit in a little cell for the rest of your life, telling it how cool it is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It is as you were talking earlier, um, it does. There is a point where even life itself, when it becomes so routine, when everything just becomes so uh, kind of like the comfort zone becomes the monastery,
There
Yeah.
is something to be said about that,
you
yes.
know? So like a point of seeking out experiences, not necessarily having to go anywhere else, but like seeking out experiences that are outside of that comfort zone in order to be, in order not to be in the walls of the monastery, of our daily lives, of routine, work, cafe, whatever it is that we do. Um, so that came to mind as you guys were talking earlier as well.
Yeah.
Yes. I
And
actually really
as
appreciate you saying that, Osama. Thank you.
yeah, and just as an aside, the reason that I wanted you to read it in Arabic is because that's the language in which these words were spoken. And the pure vibration of the words have meaning. What you're hearing is what people heard when it was first spoken, if that makes sense. So for me, yeah, you read the translations because our Arabic sucks, but uh, to hear the words, the real words, is, I think, important. It gives music to the meaning. So I'm probably going to ask you over and over again, read the Arabic first. Sorry.
No,
And
I
you
get
read
it.
really well, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
RM appreciates it too. Um, yeah, RM mentions she says, well said, Osama. Consciously choose to challenge oneself in growth. So she's echoing what you were saying, Osama. And I think this is critical. We know neurologically that we become kind of numbed out when we do the same things over and over and over again. This is proven through research that we stop learning when we stop exposing ourselves to novelty and challenging ourselves in ways that allow us to build new neural connections and increase our sensitivity to novelty. And for some people, that can be really uncomfortable. But that's when we start seeing neurological decline and all of that, when people get too comfortable. So, consciously choosing to challenge oneself for growth is literally part of what makes this system function properly. And we should remember that.
So, what do we do? This all sounds nice and groovy, but how do we go about doing this? How do we live a life today that is steeped in our own personal spirituality while still functioning in the world? And as it happens, we have uh, listed 4 practical things that people can do that are drawn from both Fourth Way and Sufi traditions. These are not beliefs. They don't require that you think anything or be any religion or anything like that. They're practices. They're tools to build presence, to build self-knowledge, and to build inner freedom. So the first thing that we recommend is interrupting your mechanical life using a version of the stop exercise. Gurdjieff used to do this by a sudden command, stop. And it was designed to interrupt mechanical movements to give people a glimpse of presence. You don't need to do that. You don't need to have some bald dude with a big mustache and a fez following you around yelling stop every now and again. You can create deliberate interruptions during your day, deliberate stop points where you pause and be present. You can do this before entering a room, before opening your phone, which is a really good thing to do, before starting a task. When you pause, sense your breath, feel your body, and then notice the flow of your thoughts and emotions and let them just drift away and be present for a moment. And then carry on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, not to dive into them and start interrogating them. It's simply to notice that flow of thoughts and feelings. And this can be something that takes a little bit of intentionality, in that it is so easy for us to get swept away and, why am I feeling that way right now? And investing that energy in investigation at a moment where we are setting aside time to create a practice of stopping all of those habitual things that we do, including getting sucked into interrogating our thoughts and feelings.
So this is a really useful thing to do. That moment of stillness that you create becomes a seed that you plant, and it breaks the habitual trance that you're in. Now, the next thing that we recommend is inner witnessing. This comes from Khalwa Anjuman, and the practice invites you to cultivate the inner observer, the witness that witnesses what is given to you without judgment, without attachment. And it's simple to do, it's difficult to hold. You do this while you're speaking with other people, while you're walking, while you're working. You keep a thread of attention on yourself. You sense your feet, your hands as an anchor, and you can ask yourself, who is doing this? What part of me is active? And then you just notice, you allow your awareness to be silent and witness. This begins to develop the divided attention that you need for work in the world. Uh, and it's important.
Mm. And even though you're doing this little inward question of like, where am I at right now? Or what part of me is present? You may notice that once you develop a little bit of skill at this, you're actually going to have an easier time attending to, let's say you're in conversation with someone, you'll actually find that you have an easier time hearing and understanding what they're saying because you're bringing that energy into your attention that allows you to focus and to be present with them and to respond in a way that is less you letting them wash, letting the stimulus wash over you. You're actually there to receive it.
Ian, you are very chatty tonight. I love this. But I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yeah.
Ah,
Trickery tonight.
scatterbrain tonight.
All good.
Um, okay, start from the beginning. This one actually is a question. Um, I don't recall you using the term inner witnessing before. It makes perfect sense to me,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering, and maybe I'm getting ahead of where you're going, but I'm just wondering the relationship with self-observation, self-remembering, and so on.
As it happens, that's where we've mentioned it before. In the talks that we've done on these, we talk about three things, not two. Gurdjieff talked about self-observation and self-remembering, but there's a third aspect to that that he never spoke of in his books, or it seems even to his students who wrote stuff down, which is self-witnessing, mushahida, to be shahid literally means witness, one who has seen. Uh, and there's a lot of other meanings to it, but we ignore those for the moment. Uh, and so the idea of inner witnessing is exactly the same as self-witnessing, and uh, it is the reconciling force between self-observation and self-remembering.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective on it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any other thoughts, questions, complaints?
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll see if we can upset people. The third practice that everybody can do is the sacred task. This has to do with intention, turning ordinary action into the work. You pick one mundane task per day, brushing your teeth, replying to an email, chopping vegetables, and you make it a conscious practice. You begin with an intention. I will do this with awareness. Stay with your bodily sensations and breath. Observe your emotions and thoughts as you work. When it's done, self-observation, reflect. Was I present? What distracted me? Um, what got me back on track? And
Yeah.
this transforms an ordinary action into the sacred, and it makes your whole life your teacher. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's
Okay.
on board. Yes. I just
Yeah,
want to keep it
it,
real. Yes.
Yes,
yeah. So I was just going to say that it actually sounds like a really useful thing to try doing,
it really is.
especially in small doses, like while brushing one's teeth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You start small. The fact is, most people cannot hold that state of awareness for more than a couple of seconds before they get distracted. But with practice, it gets stronger, it gets more.
And you recognize it more easily. I mean, my experience is that, sure, I drift away and space out, but I recognize that it's happening. And it's easier for me to redirect back to whatever I had committed to doing with consciousness and intentionality. And maybe I drift away again, but again, it's easier for me to pull myself back when I feel that's happening.
And RM has an important question here.
RM
What does
said,
it mean? What part of me? Mechanical versus essence? Yes. Or any number of the parts of your mechanical self, because it isn't just one, it is myriad. Like the demon, I am legion.
yeah. Yep.
So it might be the part of you that takes the mother role. It might be the part of you who is the doctor. It might be the part of you who just wants to sit down and put your feet up and watch the television. It might be any part of you. And it's good to notice what part is to the fore. Does that make sense?
Yes. And
Good. Yay.
it's always nice
Now,
to make some sense.
any other thoughts before we get to the last bit?
Osama has
Sama.
something to share.
Yeah. More like an observation or comment.
Hmm.
Recently, um, I just had this thing with my relationship to practices and this realization that the practices that I'm doing are they're very important, right? They're crucial to practice, and at the same time, they are only a practice. They're not necessarily the work. Um, and it's kind of like practicing an instrument. Practice every day. I practice every day so that when it's time to perform, when it's time to play, I'm able to show up completely, fully ready at any given moment. Um, and that realization, when it kind of solidified itself within me, is like, oh, yeah, okay. It gave me an extra charge to practice more and more and more, so that at any moment when there's a when yeah, it makes falling into presence or opening the door of presence much more accessible.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so it's interesting hearing all of these different practices that have been shared today. Um, and very powerful tools and very important to so that we're ready at any given moment. Yeah,
Yeah, I
just wanted to.
really, really, really like that perspective.
Yeah. And that's exactly the perspective you should have.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is what people who have a hard time getting started with a practice struggle to wrap their heads around. Like, this is why am I doing this? This is so hard, or it's boring, or whatever. We've all had those conversations with ourselves. And I've often said, get the reps in. Get the reps in because that's practice for when reality hits you and you're faced with difficult conversations or things that you realize your your soul is asking you to do and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But you've prepared yourself to deal with those difficult experiences in the sense that you know how to deal with fear. You know how to deal with doubt. You know how to deal with the fact that you've made a commitment and now you know how to follow through on commitments because you put in the practice with lower stakes experiences. And people want to dive into the deep end because it's exciting, and then maybe they succeed, maybe they blow it. But you set yourself up for success when you're able to commit to the small things and to do what you're saying, Osama, which is to, even when they're boring, even when you're like, what is the point today? You learn the value of them when you see that hard work paying off. And I think that goes for anyone who's given themselves to something like learning to play an instrument or honing a craft of some kind. You see yourself getting better, or I invite you to take time to witness hard work paying off. Thanks, Osama. Ian.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned music because that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Playing scales. I remember back when I was seriously practicing the piano, there was a book, I think it was called Hanon, with all kinds of exercises. And of course, in themselves, they're totally boring, but they do develop skills that you don't get if you only practice pieces.
Mm-hmm. Good example. Thank you, Ian. Cherie.
Hi. I was thinking about the Japanese tea ceremony, and I've witnessed many ceremonies where everybody's really rigid and they're being very still and proper, and everything's very precise, and they go through all their rituals and their drills and things. And then we met a tea master who was very casual, and he threw the water around and he got the pot and he was doing this and he was laughing and he was joking and he was kind of being irreverent. And he taught us the tea ceremony is to share with friends. So you don't sit rigid with your friends. You talk, you laugh, you engage, you invite in, and it makes me consider the practices that I'm doing, or if I'm cleaning the bathroom, or I'm washing my hair, or I'm doing any of these different mundane things, that what quality am I bringing to that practice? Because for sometimes it's a rigid, obsessive, I must get it clean, or I must get it this, or I must get it that. So I have to pull myself up, and I go into the body to have a feel of that sensation of what's the emotion that's creating the sensation in my body as I'm doing the practice. So that for me is like, I've got to pull it back again and make that quality, find those qualities versus just doing a practice, because my breath can become too automated. And I had a new client on Saturday and we went back to the finger circles. So this weekend I've been doing this with people and they're going, oh, and I asked them, I said, so which finger is doing the feeling? Is it the thumb or the finger when you're doing these little circles? And they're looking at me and they don't want to get it wrong. You can see that's the first the wrong or right answer to this. And I'm looking at them and I go, there's no wrong or right. It's what you choose. You choose to either feel through the little finger or you're feeling through the thumb. It is a blend of both, but one is doing it more than the other. So which one is doing it most? And so that helps them to really slow down and feel. And the young man I was working with, he goes, nobody's ever done that to me, because he was fast, 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 fast. And I'm thinking, I wonder why your practice is hurting you, because you're not taking the time to feel the quality of the movement, to just stop. As soon as you feel the apprehension, you have practiced sensing fear, pain, anxiety first before the quality of the movement. So we had to go very slowly. So I spent double time with him. I spent 3 hours with him. I said, it's no problem. There's no problem. I want you to walk away with something you can use. And it was really deeply satisfying for me, because I was going into my body feeling, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. This man is filled with so much anxiety of 10 years of therapist hopping, that he hadn't come across someone who will just be still with where he is. And I feel that's part of our practice here too. Just be still for a moment and just gather information. I said, that's all it is information. Just take in that information and decide what you're going to do with it before you go to the next step. Because once you can recognize, oh, there's that habit of blah, 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 can I put that down before I move on to the next part of the movement, and then the next and the next. So we're both lying on the floor, and he said, well, that was unexpectedly really enjoyable. Just thought, that's great. That is really great. But it's not always like that because I also caught myself on the weekend losing my temper and the sensation of judging myself and then thinking, is that righteous anger or is that actually justified? Am I hanging on to that anger too long? Did I process that? All of those different things. So I had good experience and a fierce experience, and it was initially negative. I go, no, it's not negative. I'm a human being, and this is my experience of it. But if I don't digest it and process it and feel it and accept it, I have to accept it because this is my thing. And then I think, okay, all right, that's about that. Okay, I can put that down. So for me, that's a practice of not staying in my story, in the this
Yeah.
pisses me off.
Two very good examples. Thank you. Yeah, much appreciated. We have some comments for you, Shri. RM says, thanks, Shri. I will do this exercise during my flight by end of the month, which I'm going to take with the whole family. But I will practice this beforehand. This is the finger circles, I guess, which we can I think we've shared about in the past. We can have a link to that. Osama says, wow, Shri, your use of the word quality and movements and actions gave me a new understanding of the concept of fana, that is annihilation. In actions, fana in actions, and then fana in qualities.
You're going to have to explain that to me.
Would you like to say more about that, Osama?
Yeah. When Shuri was talking about what quality am I experiencing of this movement, of this action. So I think there was a talk about the different levels of annihilations of fanat, right?
We have
Um,
talked about that a couple
yeah,
times.
fanat in the actions, fanat in qualities, fanat in um, Allah, and then fanat in the essence. Um, so the annihilation of actions, that all actions are made by one agent, one actor, that is the divine. However, in this example, why it kind of the new understanding that I'm getting is even in small little actions in the moment that are taking place, there's the hierarchy of movement from the actions that are taking and then feeling the quality of this action as well. But the action is taking place first. Um, I'm not I'm not putting attention and focus on the quality, which earlier in on in my journey, it's kind of the qualities that I was focusing on because it's more shiny and it's like, oh, just the quality of Rahman, as beloved, compassion, power, Jada, all of this kind of stuff. But I completely forgot about the actions themselves. Um, so just hearing Cherie talking about it, uh, you kind of just made a connection in a much smaller scale rather than this huge theoretical idea, just a very practical way in transitioning between the action and the quality and having being solidified more.
Well, I actually like that word harmonizing that Mushtaq mentioned at the beginning. And so that's exactly what I feel like you're kind of describing is it's not just a transition, it's a harmonizing of the action and the feeling and the novelty, all of that together.
And I like the fact that we're putting this in a context of small things. It just makes it a whole lot easier to relate to.
It's
That is
important.
true. Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, this stuff is almost useless if we cannot tie it, if we cannot relate it to small things. Because the small things are the things that we have the most contact with. I think it's
And the
a
most control over.
that too. But you know, we live in a time where people love the grandiose gestures and the grandiose experiences of, you know, ego death and unification with source and all of that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, all of the
So much
fantasies that
less about.
actually don't match up to the reality.
Yeah, I
Did I say
mean,
that out loud? Damn it.
may as well. The fact is, if you really want to live a quote unquote spiritual life that is not just rampant with your bullshit stories about what a spiritual life is, this is what it comes down to. Love it or hate it, that's the truth.
Yep.
Doesn't really matter how you feel about it, to be honest. Bother or don't.
Yeah. And that gets us to the last of the four, which is group work, the power of conscious companionship. Virtually nobody awakens alone. We need others, not to follow. The last thing we need is somebody to follow. And the other last thing that we need is somebody to lead. But we all need people we can work alongside. Small, sincere groups can create a field of mutual support, honesty, and shared effort. This only happens if you follow one of the most important axioms that we can give you, and that is true communication can only happen among equals. Let me say that again for those in the back. True communication can only happen among equals. If you're in a hierarchical situation and you are not at the top of the hierarchy, then you are going to say whatever you think the person on the top wants to hear. I've seen this over and over. I remember as clear as if it were yesterday, being in a khanqa, hanging out with some dervishes, and the sheikh came through and he said to one of his dervishes, I'm thinking about painting the walls in here. What color do you think it should be? And the dervish immediately said, whatever color you like, oh master. And the sheikh said, no, you idiot. I actually want your opinion. And that struck me as poignant because the guy on the top never hears the truth from the people below him. So he is constantly being fed bullshit. And the people below him never ever get to tell him the truth because the consequences of doing that might be too great.
Mhm.
So the only way that you can have real communication between people is if you are on equal standing with them. This again goes back to what the Prophet tried to do with Islam. There were no priestly castes. There was nobody who stood between you and God. As humans, we have screwed that up, but that was the basic idea. And that's what we need to get back to. And it's hard because we all want to be followers or leaders or both.
Yes, yes. I was
We
gonna
have
say,
to be neither.
it's such an interesting point how a lot of attention is given to how powerful figures make other people feel subordinate. And then there's this idea that they've been victimized by this powerful figure. But there's so many ways in which we create a kind of subordinate habit in ourselves. I mean, I guess I could speak for myself here. This sense of like, I need someone to who's going to guide me? Who can I turn to? Oh, here is a master teacher, and now I'm going to just like quote unquote surrender my whole self to them and disappear into them. And meanwhile, that person is like, what are you doing? This is not what I asked for. I didn't ask for any of this.
And if they
And
did
yet,
ask for it, run.
that's the idea though. I mean, there are two sides to this coin. There is a tendency for some people to seize power over others, and there is also this tendency for people to give power to others. And either way, no one is taking on right-sized responsibility. Yes. James said snafu principle. I forget what that was about.
Situation normal, all fucked up.
And Osama was saying there's a saying in the Sufi community, a sadiq hadi al tariq, meaning compassionship before the path. I personally have not
Companionship
heard this
before the
phrase. Would
path.
you like to uh ex you know extrapolate on that, Osama? I know what
Uh,
you're talking about in relation to, but
yeah, الصديق قبل الطريق. Companionship before the path, meaning like the yeah, pretty much what you guys were talking about. In order to walk the path, you need companionship. You need somebody to like actually walk with you.
yeah.
Um, the path itself, mm, the companionship would make the path itself, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll try to
Yeah,
remember that one.
yeah, we're actually going to steal that. Totally steal it. So these groups need to not have any teachers, no gurus, only companions in the work, as Osama just said.
Mhm.
Their purpose is first study, explore the sacred texts, explore fourth way materials, go through the entire library of the nine-sided circle videos, each of which teaches you philosophy and practices and whatever. And
There's a
there's
scripture. Just kidding, but there's an option.
but there's stuff that are free for you to use,
Yeah. And
and you don't even have to buy a book to do it.
mhm.
Second part of this is practice. Do exercises together. Third, and that doesn't mean necessarily in the same room, though it can, but this week we're all going to do this practice and then report back and have a dialogue about it. What did we find? Speaking from your presence, listening from your presence. And that's the dialogue of this. And the last is support. It is so nice to have real support on the path,
Mhm.
reminding each other of the work, even when we forget, holding each other up, giving each other encouragement, giving each other constructive feedback, pointing out when you're being a butthead, all of this stuff. Forming a group is the most powerful tool available today in this world to create a container for transformation that can deepen over time.
Mhm. Yeah. And we've been able to witness quite a bit of that, and I'm what a blessing that is. So, ah,
And that gets us to the last part of this, the conclusion, which I have titled here, A Worldly Life and an Awakened Heart. The fourth way, the Sufi path, both affirm a powerful truth. We can awaken not by leaving life, but by living it consciously. Our families, our jobs, our relationships, our struggles, these are not barriers. They are the raw material of the work. So we remember to pause, in our routines, to observe ourselves with kindness, to act with conscious intent, and to walk with others on the path. The idea is to be solitary yet together, inwardly free and outwardly engaged, awake in the crowd, anchored in the real. And that's it for tonight.
Yeah. A kind of a really, this is a back to basics reminder of like what we're doing and how and why we're doing it. Which we all need from time to time.
Yeah. James, talk to us.
I was just thinking this whole question of spiritual authority in groups and hierarchical, non-hierarchical. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before. In ACT, the ACT model, acceptance commitment therapy,
Yeah.
the metaphor they use for the relationship between therapist and client was you've got two mountains
Hmm.
and you've got two mountain climbers, both going up their individual face of the mountain. And the therapist or the person who functions as a therapist at the time just has the advantage of being able to look at the other person on their mountain face. And because they're at a more of a distance, they can see where the other person is going. They can get an idea of what lies ahead, and they just happen to have some technical experience with the various therapeutic tools that ACT tries to teach.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean the therapist has mastered their mountain or that the therapist can see their upcoming trials and tribulations because they've got their, perspective or blindness. They can't see their own mountain slope. And so the other person can look at them. Um, it's just an image that implies while at some phase, one person may be yelling across the void at the other person, hey, look out. I can see from my perspective that you don't have, that this is ahead of you. Watch out for this up there. But they can't do it for them. I'm probably mutilating a perfectly eloquent metaphor. So you got two people, they can see the other person's situation quite well, but they can't necessarily see their own. There's room for mutual feedback there,
Yeah.
as well as exchanging technical
Yeah.
skill.
I like Gurdjieff's take on this, which was from Meetings with Remarkable Men, and I'm going to quote from memory and paraphrase. He was talking with some highfalutin dervish in a group, World Brotherhood or something, and the man says, we find that the teacher and the student, so-called, create the teaching together. And that struck me as profound at the time that I read it.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what we try and do here. That's why it isn't us just yammering at you for an hour and a half, but that we get you to engage with us, because anybody who sticks with us like this ain't dumb. You have something to say, and what you have to say is worth something. It's worth at least as much as anything that we have to say. And together we create the teaching.
It's
yes.
also true that you've done far more mountain climbing than I have.
Maybe, but so what?
But it doesn't mean I'm going to kiss your ass. It just means
No, you better not.
you.
Nor might get mad at you.
It's not a pleasant image, anyhow. Um, yeah, you're not God, but you are a more experienced mountaineer. And anyone outside me can look in on me and say, hey, guy might be at this point and he can't see it himself because he's locked in his own perspective.
Mhm.
And
And
at the same time, I could be wrong.
yeah,
Got to
yeah.
remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And we screw up when we take the other person's word as gospel, even if
Mm.
the other person is a high muckety muck teacher who has the biggest turban you've ever seen.
But that's losing a commonsensical realization. This person has a certain realm of experience and technical skill to this person is an infallible being to make up for the father that I never had as a kid.
Yeah,
Well,
Um,
unfortunately, that distinction is hard to
mm.
draw for some.
It helps if you've bumped into a few phony teachers particularly the really egregious ones, I think it makes you. Oh, I suppose you can then just go, I am my own teacher, and then this whole shaitan as teacher problem there. But
Yeah.
a bit of experience, if the experience hasn't been too imbalancing, that's a
The
other.
trouble with being a teacher is that if you're not conscious at all times of what you're doing,
Mm.
you run the risk of believing your own press. And I have seen this happen over and over and over. It's happened to friends of mine.
Friends of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it is sudden death.
It's actually really sad and kind of scary. And yet we can take care of ourselves and make sure that we don't tumble down the mountainside after them.
How much of that self-deceit is driven by identifiable neurosis as opposed to just the general human capacity for
Who
self-deception?
can say?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder about
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it will be different for each person,
Mm.
but it tells you that there is a part of that person that is undeveloped.
Unfed is my feeling of the people in my life who took that route. There's something about them that was hungry and starving and probably continues to starve, but this is how they think they're feeding it.
And speaking as somebody who plays the role of a teacher on YouTube, um, it's something that you have to be constantly aware of because it's seductive.
Mm.
And we could get way down a rabbit hole on this, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And Ian has something to say.
Yeah, I was just reminded um, of the talk you did quite a few months ago about the law of three, which specifically got into that triad and how it was moving around.
Of specific triad of
Teacher,
Teacher
student.
taught.
Yeah.
yeah, that wasn't too long ago. That was within the last year, I think. But that's a
Oh,
good,
yeah.
maybe we can put that on the end card. Teaching, teacher, taught, I think
Yep.
is something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of the name. And Osama has another thought.
Yeah. I was introduced to some of Al-Hallaj sayings recently, and there's a there's a part where he said he was talking to his friends, or I guess the people that lived in the town, and he was like, if you guys are true Muslims, if you guys are true believers, you would kill me right now because I am one of three. I am The first is Hazrat, the presence shaitan, like Mullah shaitan, kind of Hazrat shaitan. The second is Pharaoh, and I'm the third. And I read more about his his idea of learning because he said one of his teachers is Hazrat shaitan.
Mm.
Um, and there's this view that kind of the last teaching, the last teacher is to learn how to operate in this three-dimensional world, in this life, right? And sometimes there's a personality, sometimes there's a show that you gotta perform. Um, and so in the sense of, okay, there's some teaching that needs to be expressed right now. Okay, people are listening. Oh, they're not listening. All right, let me put my rings on. Let me dress in whatever way and sit down and put this posture. And today's lesson kind of allow for that expression to come through. And And yet knowing or keeping that voice that I hear that runs in my head over and over from you guys, don't ever let it get into your head. Um, Keeping that in check and keeping companions in one's path to keep you in check also. But that role to know, okay, I'm playing a role right now, that there's something that needs to be expressed. There's some kind of manifestation that's taking place. And I'm just playing that part. That's all I'm doing. I'm just playing that part for that particular moment. And then costume off, everything's off. All right, I'm out. That idea struck me to, and maybe we talked about it before, kind
Oh,
of
we've definitely talked about that one.
in the personalities and
Got
stuff
it.
like that. So
Yeah.
that just came to mind as you guys talked about the teacher student kind of a thing.
Yeah, the teacher persona, the student persona, these can be tools in the toolkit for conveying important information or important messages, whatever. But it, as with any costume, any persona, we realize that's not us. That's not our essence.
And the moment you think that it is you, you're doomed.
Mm, Yep.
And the moment that you want to be that, you're also doomed. This is for um, if you, one of these days I'm going to do a comments that we didn't let through section so you can see. There are these people who, not just on this channel, but on all the various channels, who comment not to ask a question, but to show us how enlightened they are. And the mere act of doing that tells you everything you need to know about them.
Mhm. The
But
rivalry does not exist except in their perception of reality.
yep, I look at them and I go, what a sad heart you must have to try and get your affirmation by proving that you are more enlightened than some dude on the internet.
Yeah, no one tries to battle with me because I'm too nice, but really, they
No,
should.
they fall in love with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the one they choose off because they think that I'm more important than she is. And that just shows you how stupid they actually are.
Mm. Well said, well said.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but again, all of this it's just more grist for the mill, more
Yeah.
stuff for us to learn from and filter through these lenses of what is real, what is true about myself, about the world, other people, all of that. Anywho, RM says lessons are like water, but students are like different types of plants. The teacher is the gardener. Outcomes are different but beautiful. Yeah, again, these are
Basic idea.
personas
Yeah.
that we can wear, but nonetheless, from that point of view, this is true.
Yeah.
mhm.
I would say that the teacher is not the gardener.
I think
The
maybe that is a little too
Yeah, it's too passive on the
on
Allah is the gardener.
yes.
Teacher is just the plant who knows where to look for the water and the sunlight sometimes, maybe, if we're lucky.
Kind of reminds me of like what the three sisters, the three plants. One
Yeah,
grows first and prepares the way for the other two, but they all contribute to each other's well-being ultimately. Yeah, I think perhaps that, that metaphor was a good starting point, but
Yeah.
yes, thank you, RM.
Yeah. So one day we might be the corn, another day we might be the squash.
Yep, and another time, the
The
bean.
beans. Yeah.
Yeah. Ian.
Yeah, there was a point earlier on where I was just thinking where there was something and we were all laughing at it, and I was just thinking it's a shame that there's no way for the YouTube audience to get a laugh track when we're all laughing about something. And in that little previous segment about the pompousness and whatever, there was a point where we were all laughing. I thought about it again.
Yeah, we don't get to, I mean, we are seeing you all, but we don't all get to laugh together, but hopefully the spirit of it is felt. Thanks, Ian. All right, any last thoughts from you, Mushtaq, or from anybody before we wrap?
Um, no,
Yeah,
that's enough for tonight.
we have I think we really built up a cool conversation
Yeah.
together, which is, we're practicing exactly what we're talking about, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we've talked about this stuff before,
Mhm.
but from time to time, we have to remind ourselves and everybody else what this is all about.
Yep. Yes.
So, if you have made it this far, I'm going to ask you again to consider hitting that like button. And for every person who hits the like button, we will remember them to God.
Mm, that we can definitely do.
Yeah. And for every person who makes a comment, we will ask God to be nice to them.
Osama's cracking up. Ah, it's a heartfelt bribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would
All
do that
right.
anyway, just for the fact that you've made it this far.
Mhm.
But there might as well be perks.
All right. Well, we can go to Brady Bunch mode, I guess then.
What a good idea, because I've already ordered our dinner.
No cooking tonight. We're trying to take it easy.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we are.
All of these beautiful people,
Yeah.
including RM, who's with us in spirit. Thank you so much again for being here, everyone. It's always wonderful to spend this time together and to learn together from each other. So without further ado, we can wave to each other, wave to
Bye,
everybody watching
folks.
on the replay, and we will be back next week, God willing. Take good care this week. Bye.
Bye.